I want to build on some of the comments of my colleague, Ms. Kuzi. My biggest concern is that we have this McKinsey model of inappropriate relationships between government and big business that is actually being deployed again with the appointment of Mark Carbon Tax Carney. In general, I would say that a free market economy requires a sharp distinction between government and business, especially big business. Public entities have to be able to make neutral and fair decisions based on the common good and without personal favoritism. They respond to democratic deliberations about the common good. And then private entities, on the other hand, are partial. They seek to advance their own interests. They are primarily responsible for advancing particular goods as opposed to the common good, and they play an important role in our economy as players on the field advancing their own particular interests. And one of the biggest problems we've seen in politics over the last 9 years has been a blurring of these lines. Big government and big business getting together, in particular big business getting into government and seeking to shape outcomes to their advantage. And the call for good people to engage in public service is used as an excuse for allowing some very elite personalities to keep a foot in both worlds. It's fine for someone to come from the business world into politics, provided that they're prepared to sever ties and not be bridging these two worlds in a way that creates serious conflict of interest problems. And yet we've seen this, what I would call a McKinsey model. Dominic Barton was chairing the Finance Minister's Advisory Council on Economic Growth. Andrew Pickersgill at McKinsey was supporting Dominic Barton's efforts by supplying analysts to the government. At the same time, Mr. Pickersgill was involved in selling to the government. There was a generous so-called offer from McKinsey to serve, while at the same time using the access that they gained to sell, and they made a lot of money in the process. That is, I see, the core problem that undermines independent, impartial public deliberations about the common good and skews the playing field to the advantage of a well-connected private company. So today we're seeing the deployment of the McKinsey model again in the case of Mark Carney, being appointed a economic advisor to the Liberal Party, which is, of course, in government for the time being. And he is at the same time maintaining various leadership positions in the private sector, particularly with Brookfield. And it's come out that Mark Carney, the sitting chair of Brookfield, at the same time as he's advising the governing party, at the same time as Brookfield is applying to Ottawa for the creation of this massive multi-billion-dollar asset fund that would be extremely advantageous to Brookfield, the company that he is in charge of. So, I look at what's happening here from the Dominic Barton corporatist fusing together of government and big business, and then I see the same thing happening again with Mark Carney, and it just brings home the point: have in 9 years have these people learned nothing? Or maybe they have learned something, but they've learned the wrong lessons. They've learned that they want to further refine this model of bringing together big business and big government to the advantage of a few well-connected elites. So I want to put it to the officials. Do you see a problem with this model, this structure that allowed McKinsey and that is now allowing Brookfield to have a level of access that simply would not be available to any other normal private company?
Mr. Chair, I really couldn't speak to the relationship and the role of these entities in advising the Prime Minister of the government. That we're not involved in that at all. I can say, with respect to McKinsey, the volume of contracts went up when we put in place a non-competitive benchmarking instrument. Lots of departments were looking for benchmarking. Right now, we've taken measures that is...
Okay, I am going to press you to just comment on this advice piece, because you see the problem that Dominic Barton comes in, Andrew Pickersgill, running the Canadian operations, is supplying analysts to the government at the same time as he's selling to the government. That that access is access that others didn't have. And so in getting from there to the master standing offer, I mean, it's pretty clear that there's some relationship between the access and the result.
Just a brief answer, please.
A brief answer. I failed to see a connection between advice to the Prime Minister and the government on economic policy and a Director General from a department such as ESTC that's implementing an IT project seeking a benchmarking study.
Thank
If
you.
it's the
Failed
same
to see
person,
the connection.
Thanks very much. Mr. Baines.